friend. Welcome to Clean With Me While I Spill the Tea, a series where the house gets cleaner and the conversation gets deeper. Let's tidy up while opening up about the messy, beautiful, and sometimes hilarious parts of life. So grab a coffee, a mop, or just get comfy, and let's clean up inside and out. Welcome to episode 1. I have to tell you that the working title for this video was "I'm done pretending I'm not okay, but I'll be fine," which obviously is a little dramatic, but it's also kind of the truth. I'll be fine, but I haven't been. I think that's been pretty obvious if you've been watching any of my content recently, but I feel like I just have to call out the elephant in the room before I can move forward, which I realize is probably all in my head and completely unnecessary, but that's just how my brain works. So let's just get into it. Obviously, I've been through some stuff. In the spring of 2023, my professional life was unexpectedly skyrocketing. I was, for the first time ever, experiencing everything I could only ever dream about. My writing career, my online presence, all of it. I felt I had just finally found my place, and it was the in that I couldn't have ever anticipated finding. And all of a sudden, I had this audience, and they were kind, and they were supportive and lovely in every possible way, which thank you, by the way. But the thing that nobody really talks about when it comes to getting everything you've ever wanted is how terrifying it is. And if you know anything about my story, you guys know that this happened for me in a very weird and roundabout way, and I was not prepared for it at all. I never in a million years expected it. One day I was traditionally employed, relying on routine and stability, and the only wild card that I was dealing with was trying to balance this rambunctious toddler who I was also keeping home full time. And the next day I was thrusted into an arena that I'd always wanted to be in, but I had absolutely no idea how to navigate. And my career has always been really important to me, but if I'm honest, there was something else that I was dealing with at the time, something so much more important that I was going through that I wasn't talking about publicly. I wasn't keeping my toddler home because I thought I could do it all, and I wasn't keeping him home to save money, although that was definitely nice, and I loved the extra time with him, but do not, under any circumstances, let anyone tell you otherwise. Being a full-time, work-from-home, stay-at-home mom is really freaking hard. Some days, or rather, actually no, scratch that, it's most days, it feels actually impossible, and you're doing everything you can to keep all of the boats above the water, and the thing that ends up sinking is you. I'll get into why I was keeping him home in a hot minute, but just know it wasn't really exactly by choice. And in 2023, I was suddenly in this new career arena, one that I had to make up as I went, while also focusing 90% of my energy on navigating a lot of unknowns with my son. The truth is, I was scared. And at the time, I was full of insecurity and just an enormous amount of doubt, and not just with my career, but also in motherhood. And I honestly thought that maybe God had gotten it wrong, and I felt most of the time I couldn't do it. I was scared I would fail. I was scared that I was going to fail with this new opportunity in my career, and to be frank, I felt I was already failing as a mom. And in that headspace, literally everything crumbled. I couldn't keep the momentum with my career going while also shouldering that kind of insecurity. And the reality is no one's going to believe in you if you can't believe in yourself. And that's exactly the place I'd gotten myself to. And it turns out with this kind of stuff, you have to be the loudest person in the room. And instead, over time, I just sort of let the fear snuff out my voice, and I fell right back into the place that I had been existing in for 9 years before all of this happened, which was having done the thing, but never talking about the thing, which, speaking of not talking about it, I guess I should just talk about the thing that I wasn't talking about at that time. If you've seen the video, I recently shared my son's birth story, and doing that was not just cathartic, it actually helped shift some things into place for me. So I pulled my son from daycare just after he turned a year old because we were having trouble with biting, which was a very typical toddler behavior, which is exactly what my pediatrician was saying. saying, and it's what my family was repeating, and people were telling me that like he'll grow out of it. And several months later we tried again. It was at a small preschool this time, and only a few weeks later I found myself standing in the hallway having the exact same type of conversations that I'd had at the other school, at this one with the director. And this behavior was suddenly becoming like problematic, and so I pulled him out. A year later I tried again. We were 3 classes in when again I found myself having the same conversations with the teacher and the director, and it was just getting to a point that like I didn't know what to do. Again, very typical toddler behavior, which is what the pediatrician said. It's what my family was repeating. It's what friends assured me over and over. But I knew deep down somewhere in my gut that like something was off. And I didn't really exactly know, like, how do you pursue a gut feeling? You don't. There's no roadmap. I felt completely lost and helpless, and you guys, all of my energy was going into this. I couldn't say it because like you don't ever want something to actually be wrong, but I felt dismissed by everyone every time I brought it up, where people were just assuring me like, oh, it's totally typical toddler behavior, but we were running into the same issues over and over, and none of the other parents of quote totally typical toddlers were experiencing the same thing as far as I could see. And to be honest, I could not focus on anything else, only exactly what was necessary. And at that time, it was survival. My son, my job, and the bare minimum to keep our heads above water. My personal life took a nosedive. My marriage was struggling, my friendships imploded, and my career, well, I let it completely die in the frickin' water. I shared, I think it was in a blog post, but I think I also shared about it in a video about like our journey to getting a diagnosis and getting my son into the right programming. And honestly, like now that we're getting to the other side of like this unknowingness, things are starting to like settle down a little bit, because the reality is like he's fully thriving in this new program. Thank God for that. I don't know that I could have handled it if he wasn't. Like if we were again in another situation where like it was just the same cycle being repeated over and over, I think I would be 6 feet under. Couldn't handle it. I feel like now like my cortisol level is starting to level out, and I'm coming out of like that fight or flight feeling. But in the wake of all of that, I'm just left trying to like process the last several years, because the truth is like I know that we've had like blessings upon blessings, but still things have felt really hard. If you saw the video, you guys know Jesus made my baby cry. He rescued him from certain death, and sharing that story with you guys was exactly the reminder that I needed as we navigated into this new phase of life with our neurospicy toddler, because the reality is so sobering. We could have missed out on all of this if that cry never came. And it's not lost on me that the after effects of what he experienced are usually a lot more life altering than what we're going through. And the reality is I'd forgotten. Can you believe that? Like I actually forgot everything that we had gone through when he was born. I'd processed it, compartmentalized it, and I tucked it away neatly in a box in my mind, like just putting it out of my mind. This is hard to admit, but I feel like I failed. I'm embarrassed that I had everything I ever wanted career-wise practically like handed to me on a silver platter, and I let it crash to the floor while I managed something that I think most would argue was obviously a lot more important, and I don't regret it. I put my focus where it needed to be, and I would do it 1,000 times over if I ever had to. But there were people, they were sat, they were poised, they were ready, and they were watching, and they were eager, and I feel like I let you all down. And if I'm being honest, a lot of ways I feel like I let myself down. And I know it's never too late to start again. And I'm sure all of it, the timing of everything, will eventually make sense sometime in the future in a way that like I could never expect to understand right now. But the last few years, while the outside might have looked super dreamy, I need you to know that they were anything but. People ask me all the time about when my next book is coming out, the one that was supposed to release on Valentine's Day of this year, and my throat basically closes up whenever I try to answer, because there's so much more behind the like, it's not done yet, that I don't think I could ever possibly explain in any kind of concise way. And I know, like, my friends are going to say this, so, like, I'm usually the person that can do it all, but I've also never been a parent before, and nothing will ever be as important to me as him and his well-being and advocating for everything and anything he needs. I know there's time. There is still time. There will always be time. There were 9 years between publishing, yeah, maybe, and the sequel, not so much. And I hope I can promise you that it won't be another 9 years before the third book is finished. But there's time. And someday, maybe, I'll find my balance with it all. So, no, honestly, I have not been okay the last several years, but I know I will be. And there's so much hope on the horizon with that statement, because I'm starting to feel excited again when I think about all of the things that I love to do, which honestly I haven't been able to say for some time. In fact, for the last year or so, anytime my mind would wander to all of the things that I left hanging in the air with my career, there would be an ache so deep in my heart that it would practically threaten to choke the life out of me. So if you feel like you are finding yourself standing back at the starting line in the wake of, like, I don't know, the unexpected curveballs that life has thrown at you, know that you are better equipped, and you're equipped differently now than you were before. That, like, whatever life threw at you taught you things that you didn't know you needed to know. It taught you about yourself, and maybe, just maybe, you're now the exact person you always needed to be to bring the life you wanted into a reality. Until next time, friends, remember, your life is not a coincidence, it's a creation. Now go and make it joyful by design.